9, 8.
You're watching the Experience Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
Hey everybody, it's Miss Jen. I'm super excited to see you guys. I know it's been a while since I've been on Talking Shop. I wanted to give everybody else a chance to be able to talk to really cool people about comic books that are coming out. As usual, we're focusing in on books that are going to be out really soon at comic book shops near you. A reminder to definitely find out where your local comic shop is. If it's confusing to you, it's super simple. There's a cool site, comicshoplocator.com. You can just type in your zip code and it'll get you to the local comic shops near you. It's especially helpful if you're traveling. So you never have to be nervous on vacation that you're going to miss out on the cool stuff. All right, so I just want to say we're going to have a lot of fun today. We're going to get to talk to Becky Cloonan, which if you read Somna, I'm sure you've got a million questions about. But it's about the new book that's coming out through Distillery, where she is also a founding member. So please send do some sharing and some likes and some hearts and get some your friends in the room so they can also ask questions and think about what you want to ask also, because this is a really wonderful opportunity for you. Get up close and personal about what is happening next. All right, I'll see you guys in just a second. Everybody, thanks for showing. And I do want to say welcome to our very special guest, Becky Cloonan.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
It's me.
I could tell from your talk earlier that you also you use technology a lot, I'm certain, but also that technology is it's like
yeah, it's like I love it, I hate it, I can't live with it, I can't live without it, this kind of thing. I just can't get anything to pair right now. It's like, what? It's 2024. Come on. Yeah.
Amazing to me that we live in an era where you can like create levels of art. Like I watched someone the other day, I think it must have been Tony Fleece, or Tone Rodriguez was doing art, and it was cool to see him just like back up steps. Like, okay, well, here's all the layers that I've got going on. I'm going to take you back to the original sketches. And I was like, I was so nervous to do that I would just lose all my work.
It's crazy. It's like, I love working on paper. I think first, like, I'll never, certain parts of my process, it's like I have to do on paper. But when I'm traveling, like being able to just load up Clip Studio on my iPad and being able to be like, oh, I can hit a deadline if I have to go somewhere. It's like, where was this technology like 10 years ago? I don't know. It's super useful to me, but I still can't let go of like a brush and a pen,
I'm glad. I'm very grateful for that, because I think like for a great many things, I was talking to someone about this the other day, like for medias, like CDs and your movies and all those things, I think people are going to realize soon that if their service disappears, so does all the content that they think they own.
Yeah, I just love physical media anyway. I like having, I don't have a big collection of stuff, but like I have it's like, I don't know, it makes me happy.
I think it's going to be the same for maybe in the comic book industry. I think that's going to be the way we're going to start looking at like original art pages, that we're going to be all of a sudden be like, oh, that's why it's really cool to do digital, but then we don't have any physical media of that to pass down. That's going to be a whole thing.
Yeah. I love having the physical pages. I like seeing them pile up while I'm drawing them. It's like a nice, I don't know, something satisfying about it.
There's nothing like the smell of like Bristol board.
Oh, books. The smell of a book when you open it, like it comes from the printer and then you open it and it's just like, ooh, that smell. Bottle it.
All right, you're so young. You must have really started working in the industry like right out of school, right? You went to school in New York?
Yeah. I went to a few years at SVA and I dropped out. I had Ralph Bakshi as a teacher, and it was just incredible to work under him. And I was really nervous because I was going to school for animation, and at the time, all the animation industries just like stopped doing 2D. Everything went 3D. And it was like, I was like, what am I going to do for work? Am I going to work on like Dora the Explorer? Like, is that what I want to do? Which
I mean,
that was an
because
option. A lot of people did. And they were like, my advisor was like, well, you're going to have to like maybe switch to computer animation and it's going to be an extra year of school. And I'm just looking at my finances and being like, I don't know if I want to go into debt that bad. I can't afford it, And I was talking to Ralph Bakshi about it and he was like, what do you really want to do? And I was like, well, I really just want to make comics. I mean, animation would be nice because then you can work for a studio and you get healthcare and all this stuff. I was very practical at a young age. But he's like, if you want to make comics, no one's ever going to ask for your degree, So he's like, you don't need it. Just start making comics. I was like, you're very right about that.
Isn't that crazy? Like I do have a lot of people that ask me, how do you get in the industry? And I'm like, you just start making stuff. Just
Yeah. It's weird because I don't want to say it's all who you know, but networking is such a big part of this job because it's like, I think, especially if you live somewhere where you have access to conventions that editors go to, you can actually like meet people, like, even people who are just starting out, they like became my peers, in college, and now we're all like working professionally. You know what I mean? It's just like, I, I don't know. That's why it's so important to be nice.
Oh, I saw someone posting about that just an hour ago. I think, who was it? Gail talking about like to be kind to who you collaborate with, because when you're going to collaborate with someone that they've collaborated with.
Yeah, exactly. And just like, just be on your best behavior because you never know where someone's going to end up too. This is like a small industry and people are always like changing places, going to different publishers and,
Girl, tell me about it.
It's just nice to be nice. It costs nothing.
I joke around a lot with other retailers. Like we need kind of like one of those, like almost like the murder charts where like, where does Morgan Perry work now? I don't know. She works like, okay. Manga now. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Oh,
exactly. Always made his own company. All right. It's a lot. So, okay. Here's some fun thing we can talk about. Like there's a lot of people that watch that want to know kind of like the ins and outs of the industry.
Oh yeah.
Working for multiple companies over time, is there ever a feeling that you have to be brand loyal to the big two, or everyone knows that you're going to work for wherever the work is?
Oh, I think the big two, it's, especially, I love working for DC, especially. They've just been very good to me over the years, and it's consistent work. And it's almost like a day job, you know what I mean? Like it's one of those, if I can do a book for them, then I can do a book for me and kind of like keep that balance, I feel like we're living in a time where, there's such a variety of books on the shelves. You can really just follow your own heart. And if you really want to do superhero stuff, there's a place for you. And if you are like, I want to do YA books, there's like so many publishers that do that. And then there's, more. I just feel like there's so many good books coming out. It's such a good time to like be into comics. So if you have creator-owned stories you want to tell, like I don't think people should feel beholden to work for the big two if that's not their thing, because the superheroes, it's very specific kind of genre and storytelling. And, I think I had to really learn a lot over the years to try and like fit in that, period, like the episodic, serialized kind of format,
It's like, I feel like for your art style, it's very, like you could tell, like Batgirls is yours, right? You can tell your art style. Do you feel like you carry along an art style because it's clear that Batgirls is not the same as what we see in Songline.
Oh yeah. Batgirls that was Fourier Corona was drawing that one, and he just brought such a good flair to it. Like I love his art so much, and such a good collaborator too, and such a sweetheart. Oh my god, love him. I think when you're starting out there, it's easy to think like, what is I think you get trapped in the word style, like I was definitely worried about like, what is my style? Like what, but it's just, I feel like you can't really escape it. It's like, oh, even if you change the medium, even if you're like, I'm going to ink with a quill instead of a brush, it's still going to be you. So worrying about style and this kind of thing, I think it's more important to hone, like, I don't know. For me, I get caught up in draftsmanship a little bit, which I don't think is good necessarily for
What,
me. I
what
think
does that mean?
storytelling, like the technical skill of like being able to draw a car or like drawing, the face from different angles, this kind of like drawing quote unquote well. I think storytelling is more important when you're talking about comics because a comic can have poor draftsmanship, but if your storytelling is good, it can still make you cry. Knowing where to put the close-ups, knowing how to handle the emotional beats on a page. If you can't draw a car, it doesn't matter. As long as someone can tell it's a hand, like it's good enough. And I think we all, people who uh, get angsty about their draftsmanship, like me, I'll like agonize over like a hand or a facial expression. I'm like, it's not quite right. And it's like, oh, I just gotta, even now, after so many years, I have to remind myself, like, let that go. It just can be, the comic's got to get done. You know, we just gotta finish this book, get it to the printer.
Are you one of those magic people that, and I know this is from like tons of like practice, but are you a person that you need to draw a hand, you just envision the hand doing what it's supposed to be doing? Or are you someone who likes to have something practical to look at, like pictures, images, a little, like those cool wooden posing hands?
I wish I was because I feel like it would make my life easier. A lot of times I look at my own hand and just like contort in weird ways to try and get a hand looking right. Some of it is just like the fact that I've drawn so many, over the years that you just end up being like, okay, here's how to construct a hand and I can draw it from different angles. But I think, there's nothing wrong with having, I just lack the I'm just too, I just want to get it done so I don't have time to look up reference. I get too antsy, I think, when I draw.
Did you ever get to, like, I know that you said that you didn't go all the way through the schooling part of it, but did you get to the parts where, like, I understand probably that maybe people that do art know just as much about like body physiology as any old doctor would, because muscles and
Yeah, I mean, that was a huge thing when I was in school. The first few years was like intensive life drawing, especially in animation. You're doing like, 6 hours a day of, you know, 2-minute poses, maybe even less than that. And you're just going through it and you're just like getting gesture drawings down, which is, I started doing that again a few years ago. I just moved up to Portland. When I moved here, I started life drawing again and it felt like just so much rust coming off, it was like you really can uh if you're kind of stuck or you're in a rut, I would definitely suggest doing some like don't even have to go life drawing classes, just like a life drawing session. And a lot of times you can just pay for the session and it's not super expensive. And it's just gets the gears moving in a different way, and just reminds you like, oh yeah, like the human form is like relearning how to draw it, I think was really important to me at that point. I was just feeling kind of stuck and kind of getting back into that mindset of like, oh yeah, I'm a student. Like I gotta relearn how to do this.
What I think seems like magic is when someone comes up with, like you have a character, right? They have a look, big nose, small ears, whatever, all those things, right? The things that make a person look like a person that you can actually, this is the thing that makes my brain hurt, is like, then you have that same person from a different angle or running or angry, all those things, but you still draw all those same bits that make them that person and still make them look like them.
Yeah,
It's just magic to me.
It's some of that is like thinking about the character and who they are and figuring out like before I draw a comic, I like to spend a month or so if I can, if I have time, really learning that character and doing like a lot of sketches of them so I can get down like facial expressions and like do they have any like hand gestures that they do a lot that I can kind of throw in there and it's like it makes them feel uh like when they do that gesture they make that expression like oh that's that character like I know it's like a tick I guess. Yeah, just like figuring out who they are on like a level and hopefully, I think there's certain tricks like in animation, it's all about the silhouette, if someone's got like a cloak that they wear and it's got like, a round hood, it might have a different shape or something, or like someone's got I keep going to like Lord of the Rings, a quiver of arrows like on their back. You'd see it, like it's, and so that's important to think about silhouette. And I think there's tricks that you can do, but it's really just practice. Getting to know those characters as a creator is going to make it easier for you to draw them consistently. I'm constantly forgetting like parts of when we were doing Wonder Woman, one of the artists was running a little late and I stepped in to do fill-in art, and I kept like forgetting it's like Wonder Woman was wearing a cloak, and I just kept forgetting to like draw it in. And I knew it was there. It's like I've written the script, so I know there's a cloak there. Like,
why did I write the cloak into the script?
I think because that was like the design, like when the artist came back with the design, it was like so it was just, but it's a whole thing. It's just like you're gonna be forgetting stuff for sure. So
That's the other thing is like fabrics.
Mm.
Like the folds and fabrics. Just I'm mesmerized by it.
Yeah, that's fun to do. Yeah, so much of that is just life drawing. The more you do it, the more you understand like how does a body fit inside a piece of cloth, and then how does the cloth like drape around it so that you're getting like a naturalistic curve to the body and like as few lines as possible. Yeah.
Just think to yourself, all right, sister, you can't be wearing that outfit because it's not doing you any favors. Right? Or does everyone always look gorgeous? Even the side characters, right?
I mean, that's important too.
It's like everything in Gotham is beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I haven't got to talk to anyone, I don't think, about the early formation of distillery. I know Chip, and I think it's an amazing thing that you guys are doing. Like, how did you guys just like all end up at the hotel bar after a convention together and be like, what we should do?
I think this was probably Chip and David had the idea of it. And then, when they approached me, I think it took a few months for me to like really sign on to it because I wasn't sure about like timeline and commitment and like what my schedule looks like for the next 2 years. So there was some of that like shuffling around and being like, okay, how do I arrange my year to work with everything else? And it is, when I signed up with them, I'm on for 3 books. So it is a big commitment for me. That's like 3 years of my life. So I really, when they came to me, it was such a good idea that I was like, I really believe in this and I'm willing to like put 3 years of my life into this company, and really just try and make it like, I don't know. I think what they're doing is super cool. Like I don't really know too much about digital stuff. I'm much more of like a physical collector, but what they're doing with like the digital side of it is like interesting even to me. It's like, well, they're just breaking some new ground. And, of course, the Somna collection, it's like one of the most beautiful books that
Yeah, it really is.
It's so nice. So I feel like treated very well there.
So did I hear correctly that you guys have been working on that specific storyline, art and all for way longer than Distillery, right?
Well, I can't say working on, but we've had the idea for like 10 years. And so it was like Tula and I had talked about this so every time we would get together, we'd be like, we want to do this book, and we'd talk about it. And there was a trip we took to Sweden. We were at a convention together and I remember standing on like a Viking burial mound and we were both like, we got to do this comic one day. Like the wind's, whipping around and we're like crying together. Oh, it was dramatic. But after that, I came home and I was so excited that I was like, I'm going to write a full script. So I wrote like a full, like I think it was like a 5-issue script or maybe 6 issues. I can't remember. But then it was trying to find like a home for it. And it's like, no one wants this trash. Like,
yes, we do.
We're making smut. Right? It was just, like we were talking to people about it and there was like a little hesitation, I think, on the content side of it. And we were like, we want to bring it to a publisher that's going to have no question, like they're not going to be weird about it. So
you guys have to like,
of course,
flip a coin for who got to do the spicy parts.
Well, I mean, Tula, obviously, her art is she's just so, God, I love everything she draws. Right away, like from the jump, we knew what the story was about this woman who's having these dreams, like erotic, but also scary dreams. It's like based on sleep paralysis kind of feeling. but make it sexy, I guess, which it's not. It isn't. But it's not. This isn't a realistic book. Well, maybe it is kind of. I don't know. Anyway,
I was bought in that like maybe this is based on something that really happened because it seemed pretty well thought out.
well, there was a lot of it that was actually like taken from historical texts. So like I think there's a sermon in there, and in part 2 that it's not directly taken out, but there are lines in there that are from sermons given at the time. And there's the marriage vows were like basically taken and edited down to be like these were actual vows at the time. So some of the stuff in there is very much like a one-to-one historical, and then of course then it's not also. But yeah, in the beginning, from the get-go, Tula was going to do the dreams, and I was going to do the reality, which is not as sexy, but I got to do some fun stuff still. So that's
I think
that was nice.
there was a lot of tension that you had to draw, right? Just
Yeah,
between her and
her husband Roland.
And
Yeah.
it's like, wow, like that whole like impossibility of like I know something I probably should tell.
Yeah.
But I'm also dealing with stuff, so
Yeah, but who do you tell? Like, who do you tell in that situation? Like, it was fun to build that world, and it was really cool to work with Tula like that. Like, I've never done a book quite that with that much integration before with another artist. And so she would draw stuff in her pages and send them over. You know, like she drew the cabin first, I think, where they met in the woods, and I took that and used that as my reference. And the way that she was drawing the trees, I was like, oh, I'm going to change the way I draw trees to match more what she's doing. And vice versa. You know, there were things that I drew that she's like, I'm going to take some of this and like bring it into my work. So there were so many levels. And, you know, each drew our halves and then showed each other. And then there was like this scramble of like, okay, now let's change some things and like integrate the art a little more. And then, so we were constantly just going like over and over and over it. And it was like this, I don't know. I feel like we finally figured out the best way to do it by issue 3, you know, the most efficient way to collaborate. And then it was over. So it was like, well, I guess.
I felt like it was like the perfect length. That's the problem that we run into a lot with kind of like hand selling to our customers is like, if it has a good pitch, which this had a terrific pitch, very easy to do. But I also say to them, I don't know how long it's going to go. It's really hard for someone to say, you know, like they're thinking about the budget for their comic books every week. They're like, I know I've got to have these books I've been collecting since, you know, the first part of the run 20 years ago. I can't give that stuff up. And I get that. I can't ever overcome those things, but I got to get them in somehow. And this is perfect length. And it was, people would ask me who it's for. I'm like, everybody. It's like Saga. It's like, just hand it to anybody. It's like, as long as you don't mind it's spicy.
Yeah, it's not for babies.
Not for babies. Not for youngins.
Not for babies. The younglings, not for you. I like Distillery's format. You know, and I really appreciate people giving it a chance and stuff, especially with the price tag, because you're really getting 2 issues in one, because each issue of Psalm Knife was at like I think 50 something pages. So even at $9, it's a lot, but you're still getting like, I think you're getting your money's worth with these books. But it is a hefty price tag, I think, for a lot of people to look at and be like, oh God, do I want to spend $9 on this book? I love the 3 issue, you know, one in stories. I love a short story anyway. So working in this 3 issue kind of format, I think of it like a 3-act play, you know, just kind of like divide it like that. So I feel like, you know, it's just a tight way to tell a story.
You don't ever end up at the point where, like, not that it happens in comic books, people that love a comic book are paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
You don't ever really run into that part of like, it comes out very regularly and there's not so much information. You find yourself saying, okay, well, I got to go back and read the last 5 so I can remember what's supposed to be happening next.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a nice thing about like a single issue, you know, and I like a good ongoing too, but you know, there's only so much shelf space you have. And, you know, it's kind of nice to be like, oh, I've got the full story. You know, it's like a movie versus like an ongoing TV show. And then you also have to, you know, it's especially, you know, in this day and age, worry about things getting canceled. Like my favorite shows, like, you know, not picked up the next time. And it's a real, it's an issue.
Really is. You're like, well, do I dedicate myself to watching this all the way to the end? Because you never know, right? They don't ever do it in a helpful amount of time.
Yeah.
Here's episode 2. We're not going to continue on with the series, and you can make a decision. They wait until chaos is over and you fall with those stupid gods, and then they're not going to let you do anymore and play in that sandbox. Great.
Exactly. And I like the distillery model because it's like you can tell your story, you can get in and then get out. And then if it does well and people like it and you had a lot of fun working on it, you can always dip back in either with those characters or with the same theme and do something like in the same universe. So of course, Tula and I are like, when are we going to do another Somna? Which really, again, just depends on our schedules. But it's like, with that kind of story, the potential is there to just keep doing books like that. And you can just have it in the same kind of world, or there's a lot to be said about having like a fulfilling one and done kind of story.
So I see that Richard Chip's on. He's always funny because he, like, whenever he comes on his show, he puts my name in like 1 million letters. So it's so hi, Rich. And then JD says, I won't start a popular show until it's 3 seasons done. That way I know I'm not going to get rug pulled out after a season or 2. Man, that's a lot to say 3 seasons.
You know, I get it. There's so much to watch, though. Like, I'm always about 3 seasons behind on anything. And, you know, it's a good way to be. I support that.
Okay, so you've got a cool book that's coming out.
Yes.
Is it this week?
This coming week, yeah. I think on the 30th.
Really close. Called Come Find Me, and it's anthology. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's 5 short stories, I think. I could be wrong. Hold on. I should have brought it out here because I don't remember.
I know it's at least 3.
My brain. Yeah, I think it's 5 short stories. Maybe. God, I wish I could remember. Hold on. It's me, Hamlet Machine, who I like fucking adore. So good. Molly Mendoza, who I'm like a huge fan. Everyone I'm a huge fan of. Vanessa Del Rey, Celine Loop, and E.M. Carroll. That's 6 people. So yeah, 6 short stories. They're all my favorites.
Oh no!
I know they're all like, oh my god. E.M. Carroll is like maybe one of my favorite cartoonists in the world. Celine Loop, again, like The Man Who Came Down the Attic Stairs is just like a masterpiece. The fact that they both said yes to this, working on this book. And Molly Mendoza, oh my god, Stray is like that's a Silver Sprocket book, I think. And I read it and then immediately read it like 2 more times. It was just absolutely beautiful and heartbreaking and just like, it's just so good. And of course, Hamlet Machine, I'm like #1 fan. Other people will say they're Hamlet's #1 fan, but it's not true. It's me. So
You're back off, right?
Yeah, back off. Exactly.
So not to be sucked back into Somna again, but so So Somna happened at a time when spicy books seem to be having a moment. They're still having a moment. Was that intentional on your part, or was it just a happy accident?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to say because like we had been thinking about it for so long, and some of it was timing that like Tula and my schedule just didn't line up. So we were constantly like, if one of us had a break, the other one would be so busy, and then vice versa. And finding the right publisher for it took a while. So I think it was just like, I don't know, the lattice of coincidence, you know, that everything just kind of happened. I mean, that's what people call it, the zeitgeist, I guess, you know, things just, you know, they take their own time to happen, and then hopefully it happens at the right time. And I think Somna, you know, it feels like a good time for that. You know, spicy books, of course, having a moment. And, you know, especially with more and more comics coming out, like with, you know, erotic content and like stories and just so many, it just feels like it's a good time if you're a fan of smut to be reading comics.
Well, and manga, because I think it's the top.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's the top category of manga, and I think in just regular novels right now.
Yeah. It's a good time to be alive.
Yeah. It's like we've got a healthy relationship with the romance, which is very cool. All right, so your story in Come Find Me.
Oh yeah.
Give us a pitch.
Oh God. So it started out, I can't pitch it. I'm so bad at pitching. It started out because I was like, I want to do like a kind of lead into my next book at Distillery. But then I was thinking about my next book and it's just so like the plot is so tight. There's no string I can pull on that without giving away like the whole plot of it. So I took an aspect of it, which is this coin, and I kind of told a news story with that element of the story. Um, it's just a spooky little tale about grave robbers. There's a public execution, that's always fun. Um, yeah, it's kind of like a be careful what you wish for, but it's also a story about like generational trauma in a way, and like kind of an
Oh,
obtuse kind of like, I never want to be too like hit the nail on the head with a story because I feel like they always kind of leave you a little like, it feels like an after school special. But those were kind of like the themes in my head when I was writing it. Um, yeah, I don't
it's
know how
a
to pitch it.
small
It's so short.
small tease to what's coming up next. Is that what
Yeah,
you're hoping for? That was awesome.
fingers crossed. Yeah.
Can you tell us the name of your next project, or is
Oh
that
God.
away?
I haven't landed on a final name yet. It's so hard. Names are the worst, the absolute worst. Samna we thought of like right before it got solicited.
It's a
It's like we
perfect
need a new
name.
name. Yeah, that worked really well. And Come Find Me is stolen from a Sylvia Plath poem. So maybe I'll steal something from a poem again. Yeah, I have a code name for it. Uh, but and everyone's like, "We'll just use the code name." I was like, "No, it sucks.
Blue
It's not a good
Harvest.
title. No, it's so dumb." Yeah, I gotta think of a better one. I don't know.
Been kidding around that it would be fun to have a company, like to start a company that just help people think of titles. Because I often sit
Yeah,
through trailers in the movie theater and think this is the best movie ever. I cannot wait to see this movie. And then they put the title of it, and you're like,
yeah,
I'm out.
yeah. I'm out. It's totally get it. I totally got. I can't hate a bad title because titles are so hard. But yeah, a lot of it is like Somna, of course, was just a shortened somnambulist. So it was like the idea of sleepwalking or whatever, just kind of shorten that. Come Find Me, of course, stolen from a Sylvia Plath poem. I think some of the best things that you can do if you're stuck on anything is just read some poetry. It'll knock it just, the ideas will just, you, when I say ideas, you'll just find things to steal.
The producer says that it's funny because they think the first time they heard about Somna it was untitled Becky Cloonan to Lotte projects. Which
Exactly. I mean, that could be the title if you wanted to.
Mhm. I like simple titles.
Yeah.
Although it feels like there's this new weird trend in especially manga to try to make the world's longest title.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think there's some there's some old, I think, emo records with some great song titles that are like, this is a paragraph long.
Go on and on and on.
Just on, yeah, yeah. So I think there's a good tradition of long song titles just to be silly, but yeah, I kind of like a short, something. I don't want to say punchy, but yeah, Somna worked. I have
Okay,
no
so
idea.
can't tell me what the next project is. Do you have any other projects that are outside of Distillery that you can't talk about?
Well, The War is coming out right now. I think issue 4 of Hello Darkness just came out from Boom. And that is another horror anthology. So if you're picking up Hello Darkness, pick up Come Find Me for sure. But The War is the story with Garth Ennis, and I'm drawing it. And Tamara Bonvillain is coloring it, and Pat Brousseau is lettering. And it's so upsetting. It's so upsetting, but I love drawing it. So
So you could maybe give me a little insight on this. Like I know that there's two things that Garth is really amazing at writing.
yeah,
Like if you think about genre, and one is stuff that is a little bit hoary, like Preacher and The Boys, which is like real gory in your face.
yeah, visceral, just
Visceral.
violence. Yeah,
Great word for it. And then War, in which it feels like he must spend a lot of time researching, and it's clear that he loves that genre.
Yeah, 100%. You can really like the scripts just really shine. They're so well written and so well thought out. It's not easy to draw because, well, first of all, the subject matter is difficult emotionally to get behind, although it is kind of fun. And then the second stuff is like the technical standpoint of it, where it'll be a specific type of plane that he's talking about, and it'll come with references like in the script. So it's like, okay, like it's nice that he does that, but it is like draftsmanship when we talk about that. I try and like step it up a little bit to work on one of his stories, because I know that there's less cutting corners with him. Like you'll notice, because it's so well thought out and like well researched. Yeah.
So that is something that I found to be interesting also about the way people collaborate when they're working together. Is it easier for you, since you both write and do art, that you can get into either one of those roles a little more simply?
Maybe. With something like Somna was very different because we both wrote and drew it. So there was the matter of like puzzling it together kind of to make it work, which was a process of just going over it and over it and over it after we had kind of done our sections and stuck them together. I love working as a writer with artists, because I am the type of writer who likes to see what the artist like excels at, and then be able to write something like specifically to show off that artist's strengths. And I think Garth and I once had a conversation about this, and he's like, for being like, when I write a script, I don't always put in directions for the artist to follow. And if I do, it's just a suggestion, because I feel like, oh, here's an idea that I had, but it might not work for you, and you might have a different idea that's better, that you can, the way we see a script in our heads is always going to be different. And I was explaining this to Garth, and Garth was like, no, I expect the artist to draw exactly what is written. So when I read his scripts, I hear it like in his voice, like echoing in my mind, like exactly what is written. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta draw it so good. It's also working with like a legend, you know what I mean? Like I grew up reading Preacher when I was maybe too young to have read it. So it feels like I just feel really lucky that I get to work with him. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, he's got like such a unique mind in the way he like writes really characters that are just deplorable people. Like there's so many of them. There's nothing to really like about them, but you love them.
It's my favorite type of character to draw, is like the worst character in the story. It's always the most fun to draw. Why is that? I don't know. I revel in it, though. I absolutely love it. And I think Steve Dillon was so good at that. He was like, with like Preacher and like Punisher and stuff, like there was the way that he would break up the panels and like his storytelling, there was like such a dark humor about it, like he could draw someone getting shot in the head and like the heads exploding and everything, and the expression is horrifying, but at the same time there was always like an element of like, you could tell he's like having so much fun drawing this. So in a Garth script, whenever I get stuck, I always think like, how would Steve Dillon draw this page? Like if I could think about that, it kind of gets me unstuck a little bit, because those two were like such good collaborators, like some of the best comics they've worked together on. So yeah, it's a little trick.
I wonder if it was the same, whether Garth had to write down those very specific things, or just over time, if eventually he just got to say, here's what they're saying.
I think that's just how he writes.
Like always.
I think he just has a way that he writes, and it's very dogmatic, I guess.
Is it very specific in terms like I understand that it's like this is the exact vehicle?
Yeah.
Whatever. But is it very specific in like two people standing with their back to you, bird's eye view? All that?
Well, not necessarily camera angle, I think, but he will do like over the shoulder shot or like a close up, or he'll describe sometimes like what the shot entails. And it does help when you're thinking about like, and then sometimes I'm reading it and I'm like, I don't know how to draw that. Like, I don't know how to make that work. Like with the skills that I have as a draftsman, can I draw this in the way that he wants? So sometimes there is a little bit of like, ooh, like let's get a little creative with the angle here.
Have you ever sent something over to him that you're like going, I know I went off book,
yeah,
but I want to see if he'll just love
it. He'll be like, this panel. I'm like, yeah.
Got you.
try to be a little sneaky and be like, I could change this a tiny bit. And he's like, catches it. And I'm like, damn it. God damn it.
Got you.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh.
Oh man.
It's too good.
What is something that you've wanted to work on? Like something recent, something you've like read and you're like going, oh, if I could get my little foot into this universe, I would do it in a minute.
Oh, it's hard because I've worked in so many universes and I feel like if I wanted to, I probably could, and I might be done with it. Some of it is collaborating. So like and this is probably on me, but like Tim Sale, him and I had talked forever about working on a thing together, and then he passed away, and it was like my biggest regret that we never got to do something. But right now there's like a short story that was floating around that he hadn't inked. So I'm kind of working on that in my spare time a little bit, which is not terrifying at all to like ink Tim's line work. So that was like kind of a nice thing, like, oh, we can actually work together a little bit. But so I'm trying to do more fun stuff with friends, and just looking for projects that I can really just like enjoy myself doing. Yeah, I don't know. There's, of course, sometimes I'll read a novel and be like, oh, I want to adapt that, or like, you'll have like an idea, or like, I want to draw that character or something. I think The Witcher might be a cool one to work on. Maybe, but that's just fun. Like if I have time one day, and want to dip back into licensed work, which I feel like at this point in my career, I've done so much licensed work in the past that I have an opportunity to just do my own stories. And that's what I want to focus on. But I love The Witcher.
Sean, who's one of our viewers, said, I'd love to see you work on Something is Killing the Children.
Oh, that might be fun. Yeah, yeah. That would be a good time. I love those characters.
Erica Slaughter out of here.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a Something That's Killing the Children story running in Hello Darkness, which is cool. So maybe I'll talk to James about doing a little short thing at some point. Yeah, who knows? I mean, that's the nice thing about being like, it's so collaborative, Like I bet if I called up James and I was like, I want to do Something That's Killing the Children one shot or something, we could make it happen. Just trying to figure out like the timing of it, like in between everything else. There's like, because the next thing I'm working on is actually the last Halloween story with Jeff Loeb, who's writing that issue. So that's like, I'm going away for a little bit. I'm going away for a little bit. I'm going on vacation for a few weeks. And then when I come back, that's my next like thing that I'm digging into.
So that's going to appear in your inbox.
Yeah, I just got the script, so I'm very excited. I've read it. It's great. Yeah. They announced it at San Diego, so I'm free to talk about it, but I don't want to get too specific. But I am drawing Solomon Grundy, which is a whole lot of fun.
Ooh.
Yeah, big salute.
Love it. So are you going to be traveling anymore this year, or is convention season over for you?
Well, I'm going to Japan on Wednesday, so that's my trip, my big trip, and that's for fun. And then going from there straight to Thought Bubble in the UK. So that is one of my favorite conventions. And then Tula and I are actually going to Paris and Bordeaux because our Samna just came out in French. So we're doing some signings there, and that'll be a crazy fun time. And then maybe I'll come home. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I'll just stay away for a little bit.
do you do well like traveling and doing like continuing on with work? Or you just like, I'm out, I'm not going to do anything until I get back home?
Usually I'll bring my work along with me. Like the last time I was in the UK, I actually stayed with Tula and we did some signings, and I brought my work along and was able to do like 7 or 8 pages or something. So that was cool. That's just on the iPad, it just makes it so much easier. I'm trying not to do too much work on this trip just to kind of recharge, because I feel like I've been nonstop for the last like few years. And this is my first like real vacation in like a decade or something. Like my vacations are always like, okay, I'll take like 3 days after this con and like explore the city a little bit, which is cool. But it's also like you're at a con and then you're exhausted from the con, and you just got a suitcase full of books, and it's it's fun. But this is the first time when it's like, oh, I just want to go to a place and like for no reason, Like when was the last time I just went somewhere just to enjoy it?
Okay, so when you travel, and you might not have this down since you don't go to do it very often. So are you a person that likes to have things planned out, Or do you like to just show up and be like, today I'm going to make sure I have breakfast and then I'm going to go wander the city and find out what I'm going to do?
Yeah, there's a few things that I've planned out because there's like a bookstore that I had to make a reservation at to like get in. So it's like there's some things, and I'm going with some friends, so we're like gonna be, I think, just playing it by ear. Mostly I think I just want to like look at things and eat and like walk around a lot, go art shopping. Yeah, I don't know, buy like so much manga that I need to send a suitcase home. That's my goal.
I can't imagine going to Thought Bubble and not being like, I got to have a whole like extra case to come back with.
Yeah, Thought Bubble is great. Like, I can't wait for that. That's one of my favorite shows. And this convention, I don't have a table, so I'm actually get to walk around and like see stuff. I have like a signing and a panel or something. I don't remember.
Oh, that's so perfect. So you get to. I did that one time. I got to be a guest at a convention, and I didn't have a booth.
Oh yeah.
I didn't have a panel that I was on, and I was just like, I didn't know what to do with myself.
I know, it's crazy.
Have obligations.
Yeah. I did San Diego this past year. I was like, I'm gonna try and not do too much, and then the next thing I know, I'm like, how do I have these like 14-hour days where I have to work? It's like, this is insane.
All right. I just want to make sure that everybody does connect with your LCS and make sure you get a copy of Come Find Me, and then poke them and make sure you get War and all the other cool things that are coming out. It's going to be really awesome reading, and I'm guessing all the stories in the Come Find Me are spooky for the season.
They're pretty spooky. They're not, Come Find Me is not traditional scary stories, I don't think. Some of them are a little more challenging, like a little cerebral. They are all, hopefully, will leave you feeling a little creeped out. That's the goal. We just want to creep you out a little bit.
So is that your favorite kind of story to tell? Not like straightforward gore fest, but like a thinking person's.
Yeah, I like a story that will, like, you have to sit with it afterwards and really think about what you've done. Horror movies and I think horror comics especially it's hard to find something that's like really truly scary. Mm-hmm. So that's why I go more for like a slow creep out that maybe you'll think about the next day and you'll be like, oh, that was disturbing.
I think about that in terms of Somna. It was like, were there any other choices that she could have made as she went along? I don't know.
Well, maybe, who knows, but no. Yeah, with all my stories, actually, I start with the end and then build backwards. So,
so you already know she's not.
Oh yeah, it's already gonna be bad. You just know. It's my favorite. Is like just a bad ending.
So, do you have a social platform that you are more active on?
It's Instagram. It's Becky Cloonan on Instagram, and I just post. I like it because it's mostly just drawings.
Yeah, I try to explain it to people. I'm like, it's clear that artists love Instagram because that is what it's driven by, is like imagery, right?
Yeah.
People like me that are words people, I'm like, I like looking at pictures on Instagram, but I can't have a conversation here.
I know. Well, it's hard right now too because everything's now moving to like video format. You got to make a video. It's like, I don't have time to make. I can barely make my comics on time. Like, and you need me to make video content. Like, I can. I'm out.
We have totally gotten to the Roman Coliseum when it's like everything is entertain me.
Yeah, exactly. It's I'm just gonna stop and just start making more comics, I think.
Well, we love them, and thank you so much for giving up so much time for us.
Oh yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
We find that once people get to know a creator, then they become very loyal to that creator. We'll buy all of the stuff that they create, which is what our goal is.
Well, Salma is a good one to start with, but Come Find Me, next week. If you like short stories, it's got some really good stuff in it by creators that I approve. Love their work. Yeah, it's fun. Stamp of approval. Yeah.
All right, everybody, definitely start checking out Distillery in total, because it is a creator-owned joint. So you're only helping creators directly. You don't have to feel guilty that you're not Kickstartering with them or whatever. You're doing your job by showing up at your LCS and buying things off the rack because it helps them directly. So Thank you so much, Becky. It's been
Yeah,
so
thank you.
awesome.
Yeah.
It's been a true
Likewise.
joy.
What a delight. It's good. It's good to start the week out right.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. We're going to see you next time here on Talkin' Shop. Bye, y'all.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.